following is a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the NFL Network. No special intro this week, as let's just say that it was another rough couple of days for me, because yesterday, in case you haven't realized, we had a big snowstorm over the weekend, and then the temperatures got incredibly cold and it was icy everywhere. And needless to say, as I was going to work yesterday, I slipped on a patch of ice and fell on my back. I mean, luckily I had a backpack on, like a little, not like a big backpack, but like the ones you see, what's those type of backpacks? The drawstring backpack. I had that on, and luckily that broke my fall, and I was able to go to work, no problems whatsoever. There is still a little bit of a soreness in me, so that's going to be fun for the next couple of days. So that's why no fancy intro this week, because I'm still trying to get over that. But I'm okay. I didn't have to go to the hospital, which is good. And apparently the universe is trying to get me, because this is the second time in the last month that I've fallen on my back and have not hit my head, thank goodness. But yeah, that was not a fun time overall. But like I said, I'm here. I'm not in the hospital right now. Everything is good. So, yeah. And week 15 is officially come and gone. We are now 3 weeks away from the end of the regular season. And let's just say that week 15 was pretty fun for a number of different reasons. And we're going to get to a lot of those different reasonings as, you hear that music in the background? That music that I've been talking about since last week? The music I've been using? I'm just trying to fill this along here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for another look at the NFL Network's path to the playoffs. Woo! Insert flashy, long intro here because, yeah, not moving around as much for obvious reasons. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first two teams who have punched their ticket to the 2025-26 NFL postseason. That was, of course, the Denver Broncos winning against the Green Bay Packers in a pretty good game that could have been a preview for Super Bowl 60 had one of the team members on the other side on the losing side of the field not had a torn ACL and had their season completely ruined. We'll touch on that later on here, but the Denver Broncos are the first AFC team to make it into the playoffs. New England had a chance to win the division on Sunday. They had a good lead of 21-0 over Buffalo, but Buffalo came all the way back and have kept themselves pretty much alive in the postseason hunt. And New England better be careful, because Buffalo is right around the corner, and New England's got Baltimore coming this week. And yeah, Baltimore is desperate for a win. Jacksonville keeping their firm grasp on the AFC South right now after a dominant performance over the New York Jets, sitting at 10-4 right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers got a big win on Monday night against Miami, knocking them out of the playoffs. The wild cards have pretty much stayed the same. Los Angeles, the Chargers are still in there after beating Kansas City. More on that in a moment. The Buffalo Bills, like I said, came back from 21 down to beat New England to keep the division hopes alive. They're still in the wild card hunt. And the Houston Texans have been looking pretty solid after what they did last week to Kansas City, and now just dominating over Arizona, sitting there at the 7th wild card spot. And look at this. There's only 2 teams left in the hunt, which I think this is actually the shortest amount of time. This is actually the shortest amount of time that we've only had a couple of teams left in the AFC playoff hunt. All things considered, because usually we have more than a couple of them. But look at how many teams got eliminated this past week. Cincinnati, Miami, and Kansas City. Kansas City is no longer in the playoffs. Who would have guessed that was to happen? Kansas City, yes, they did indeed get eliminated in the playoffs this past week, and needless to say, I think I can speak for everybody when I say, thank you, Los Angeles Chargers, and also may I say,
they did it! They did it! They made the worst joke of all time! Give them a round of applause!
Yay! It's over! It's over! The streak is dead! The Chiefs are dead! celebrate. Woo! Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending AFC champs, the team that usually has made it all the way at least to the AFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl, is out of the playoffs. That means we're going to have a brand new team representing the American Football Conference this season. And it's not going to be the Bengals because they were eliminated too, nor will it be the Dolphins. But, yeah, 9 teams left to represent the AFC. And I love how everyone was looking at the Kansas City Chiefs and saying, like, you know, Rich Eisen in particular on his show, he was saying, you know, you're going to miss the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. And I just wanted to be like Kevin in Home Alone when he's telling his mom off at the beginning of the movie, where she's just like, well, maybe you should ask Santa for a new family. I don't want to see any of you guys again. And she's just like, I hope you don't mean that. You feel pretty sad if you wake up tomorrow morning and you didn't have a family with you. Like, when that happened, when Rich Eisen said, like, oh, you're going to miss the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, this would have been me.
No, I wouldn't. And say it again. Maybe it'll happen. I hope I never see any jerks again.
And lo and behold, guess what happened? The football god said, okay, here's Patrick Mahomes with a torn ACL. See, and here's an interception to end the game against the Chargers. Game over. Kansas City's out of the playoffs. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, which means that we can finally get a playoff this year where we're not seeing people sucking off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs for the rest of the playoffs in general. It's just like, finally we get to see these teams here. And a lot of teams that we're going to touch on here in the power rankings coming up here, this is your opportunity to do something that you haven't done in a long time. So, yeah, use this as an opportunity to do so. But the Colts and the Ravens are still on the hunt. Kansas City, Miami, Cincinnati, the Jets, Browns, Raiders, Titans, all eliminated in the playoff hunt for the AFC. Now let's touch over to the NFC, where the team that did make its way into the postseason, which I didn't even know about until after the Bronco game when they said that they made it in. I thought they had to do something else for the team to get in there, but the Los Angeles Rams are in the playoffs. They are the first team to go in. They are sitting there comfortably at the top spot at 11-3. Chicago moved back up against Green Bay, sitting there at 10-4 after their win over the Cleveland Browns, with the Packers coming down on Saturday night. Philadelphia got a big boost with a big shutout win against the Raiders, and also Dallas losing a pretty bad game against the Minnesota Vikings, where the Cowboys now only have a 1% chance of making the playoffs, and they got to win the division and hope that Philadelphia loses out pretty much the rest of the way. But I mean, which could happen. I mean, Philadelphia does still have Buffalo coming up next week, which will be a tough one overall. But needless to say, I think Philadelphia is going to be in perfect shape here to at least stay put as the NFC East division leader. And then Tampa Bay blew it on Thursday, but they were reprieved by New Orleans, basically being given a gift field goal attempt. I'll touch on that because I'm still peeved about that. But Carolina had a chance to take the NFC South lead heading into this matchup with the Panthers and Bucs coming up this week. But nope. New Orleans threw Tampa Bay the biggest life preserver ever with a win there. So they're sitting there at 7-7 in the 4th seed. Seattle, San Francisco in the 5 and 6 spot, and then there's Green Bay at 9-4-1 with a big injury to one of their biggest stars, which we'll touch on a little bit here. It could open the door for the Detroit Lions to get back in there. They're sitting outside of it right now at 8 and 6, but don't count out the Detroit Lions just yet. Carolina, I'm not too sure about their position right now, and Dallas is pretty much over and done with here. But Minnesota, Atlanta, New Orleans, Washington, Arizona, and New York are the teams eliminated as of right now, as of this weekend. But who can also join Denver and Los Angeles, and what other playoff scenarios can be clinched? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So, as I said, Denver has already clinched a playoff spot, but one of the biggest games of this week, probably the biggest game of the month for these two teams, which could eventually possibly be an AFC championship preview if the Jaguars continue up here. Denver and Jacksonville. Denver can clinch the AFC West Division title and the AFC's number 1 seed, a lone first-round bye and home field advantage, but they need the following to happen. Denver needs to win, of course. The Chargers have to lose, the New England Patriots have to lose, and Buffalo has to lose or tie. And considering that Buffalo is playing Cleveland this week, that's probably not going to happen for them. But Denver can still clinch the AFC West if Denver wins and the Chargers lose to the Cowboys, or if Denver ties and the Chargers lose. Buffalo can clinch a playoff berth with a win in Cleveland, or Indianapolis losing to San Francisco on Monday night. Buffalo winning, of course, and Houston losing to the Raiders, which probably won't happen. Buffalo tying with Indianapolis losing, and Buffalo tying with Houston losing. New England is pretty much winning you're in right now, but they're facing the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night. And they clinch a playoff berth with a New England win, an Indianapolis loss, or Houston loss. So they have the easiest chance to clinch a playoff berth this week. They can't clinch the division, of course, with Buffalo still hanging in the balance. Jacksonville can win a playoff spot if they beat Denver. They have to beat Denver no matter what, but they can do it by beating Denver and having the Colts lose. Of course, they beat the Broncos again, and then Houston loses. Jacksonville tie, Indianapolis loss. Jacksonville tie, Indianapolis tie, Houston loss. The Chargers can clinch a playoff berth with a win and an Indianapolis loss, a win and a Houston loss or tie, a tie and Indianapolis loss, a tie, Indianapolis tie, or Houston loss. For the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams are already clinched a playoff spot. Philadelphia clinches the NFC East title simply by the fact if Philadelphia wins or Dallas loses. Plain and simple there. Chicago can clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Detroit loss or tie, or Chicago tie or Detroit loss. Green Bay can clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Detroit loss. So basically, Chicago and Green Bay need to be rooting for Pittsburgh on Sunday. The winner of that game on Saturday night would need to be doing that, but needless to say, I think Detroit will be fine in that one. I don't think they're going to lose that one. San Francisco can clinch a playoff berth with a win next Monday night as they take on the Colts. They either get in with a win or a Detroit loss. And Seattle can clinch a playoff berth with a win on Thursday against the Rams, or a Detroit loss or tie. So those are the big ones. A lot of big playoff implications on the line for every team this week. So yeah, it's a big, big week overall. So we're going to be looking forward to probably a fun Week 16 overall with some playoff spots being clinched, possibly as soon as Thursday night. I'll touch on that when we get to the predictions and all that. But before we do any of that, let's go ahead and move on to our other thing that we like to cover here in that weekly, and that is the NFL Power Rankings. And as you can see, nothing really too significant. A lot of teams that were in the top power rankings at the top 5 spots over the last couple months are back in here as well. Teams that have been disappointments like Cincinnati, Miami, down at the bottom of the list in general. But number 5, how can you leave out the Los Angeles Chargers after what they just did to the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, that was an impressive feat overall, especially with the defensive front overall. And considering that Justin Herbert still has a fractured hand injury that he's been dealing with, the fact that he's been able to do what he's been able to do this season, especially against the Chiefs, I mean, that was pretty much something impressive on a number of different levels. I mean, I honestly thought Kansas City was going to ride this puppy out until the very end and find a way to sneak in, but hey, Jim Harbaugh's getting some good things done happening in LA right now, and they did everybody a favor, and now we're gonna have a brand new AFC title defender in the Super Bowl this year. It's gonna be a lot of fun overall. Do I think it's gonna be the Chargers? Probably not. There's still a lot of questions about whether or not they can still hold leads when it matters the most, especially considering what happened last season against Houston in the wild card round, which they'll see Houston again next week. On this one of the Saturday doubleheader games. But moving on to the number 4 spot, the Chicago Bears mopping the floor with the Cleveland Browns, getting some much-needed revenge against them ahead of their big matchup on Saturday night against the Green Bay Packers. Speaking of the Packers, the team that they lost to, the Denver Broncos, is in the number 3 spot, clinching their first playoff spot overall. And resiliency all across the board in this one for the Denver Broncos. I mean, this team literally could be the team that could be at the forefront of the at the AFC Championship game when it's all said and done at this point. I mean, it really does feel like it could be that kind of a team in general. But they're not the best AFC team on this list here. We'll get to them in just a moment. But number 2, the Los Angeles Rams put it on with the Detroit Lions. I mean, I was expecting that game to be much closer, but it never really was, honestly. Detroit kind of came out there really flat, and I was really shocked by that. I think a lot of people were. It's just like, the Lions are still very much in there, but the Rams, hey, give them a lot of credit for what they've done so far this season. Matthew Stafford playing with an MVP caliber level at his age and all that. I mean, we're seeing this year that age does not matter as long as you can still ball. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Kirk Cousins, I mean, Matthew Stafford. I mean, this is really what makes this so fun overall, because now you got these veterans here, and a lot of them are going to have a chance to go ahead and go into the playoffs and try to win a Super Bowl. Granted, I think the Rams' path gets a little bit tougher with Devontae Adams on the sideline for a little bit, and also Puka Nacua went out before the game ended. I think he came back in. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't catch the entire game because I was watching on NFL Red Zone, but number one this week, and pretty much the de facto number one all season long, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they looked flat coming out of New England to start the first half, and I thought to myself, okay, Buffalo had a chance to come in there, keep the division away from the Patriots again, keep your title crown, and yeah, they're gonna do this. Just like, okay, probably the season's over at this point for them, but no. Second half, they came back strong. They mopped the floor with New England, got revenge on them for what happened earlier in the season. I mean, it was just a really good game overall, all for Buffalo, and it really shows that this team is on the rise right now. And considering now that Patrick Mahomes is out of the playoffs and the Kansas City Chiefs are out of the playoffs, Joe Burrow's out of the playoffs now, here's your chance, Buffalo. Don't fuck it up. The football gods are literally giving you your one chance to finally make it to a Super Bowl. Finally, you're playing like a red hot right now. Don't fuck it up. Don't make stupid mistakes. Don't blow easy games coming up here. I mean, you've got the Browns this week, which, yeah, the Browns have not looked great overall, but they've shown flashes of promise, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But then you've got a tough one against Philadelphia the next week, and then your season ends with the New York Jets, and yeah. Don't fuck this up, man. You have an opportunity to do something. You have an opportunity now. This is the best chance to get to the Super Bowl right now, or to host an AFC Championship game and get to a Super Bowl. Like, the time is now to do it. And hopefully they will do it this year. I mean, the door is literally open for them to do it. So, if they don't do it, man, something is wrong with this football team overall, and this needs to be addressed in the offseason big time. Whether it's a coaching change, whether it's just you need to get more help for Josh Allen and all that, but yeah, this is the biggest opportunity that Buffalo has had so far this year, and in the last couple of years. And yeah, you can't waste an opportunity like this right now. And I'm sure Buffalo understands that too. Like I said, don't fuck it up, because this may be your only chance to get to the Super Bowl without having to face somebody that you can't get past, like Mahomes or Burrow and all them. So. But, yeah, that's the Power Rankings for this week. Now let's go ahead and get to the nitty-gritty. Let's take a look at my predictions for week number 16. So week 15, I actually did not do too bad. In fact, I did pretty damn good. I got 11 of 16. 3 of the 5 that I missed were actually the primetime games. I missed Tampa Bay. I picked them to win against Carolina. That didn't work out well. I picked the Cowboys to beat the Vikings. That didn't work out well. And I picked the Dolphins to beat the Steelers, which obviously didn't work out well. So, yeah, those ones I missed out on. I missed, who else did I miss? Well, I missed Carolina and the Saints. I picked Carolina to win that one. Of course, that didn't happen. And I think I picked, did I pick the Lions to win over the Rams last week? I'm not entirely sure. Now I'm curious. Okay, it was Kansas City that I picked over the Chargers. I did pick the Rams to beat the Lions. I think is that one I picked. So that was the one. So the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Steelers, and the Buccaneers. Those were the 5 I missed last week. So overall, not a bad week in terms of predictions. Far from it. A pretty good week overall. And week 16 is going to start off with a doozy. Thursday Night Football, probably the best game to start the whole week. They'll start the week off here, man. You've got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. As I mentioned, the Rams put it on the Detroit Lions, put a clinic on them, honestly. For the Seahawks, it was a little bit more difficult because, hey, old man Rivers can still play. I mean, the Colts kept that game close all the way to the very end. There was a chance that they could literally win at the end of the game if the Colts if the Colts defense was actually better and was able to stop the Seahawks from getting into field goal range. But hey, you can't have everything overall. So Seahawks did eventually come out with a win in that, but the Rams, the last time they met the Seahawks in Los Angeles, the Seahawks mopped the floor with them there as well. And Seahawks are looking for their revenge here. And as we mentioned, Seattle could win a playoff spot with this game here. And not only that, they could be in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the NFC at this point. I mean, this definitely could be a game that could decide the NFC number 1 seed. If it's going to be the Rams or the Seahawks, I think a couple things are going to go in the Seahawks' favor in this. One, obviously the home field advantage, and two, the injuries on the wide receiver front. We mentioned Davante Adams, who had a hamstring injury, and there's no determination whether or not he's actually going to play on Thursday. I'm going to say he's probably not, since I've not heard anything saying that there's a chance he could play, but he could end up doing it, but I sincerely doubt it. And then Puka Nacua, which I know that he was knocked out of the game in the fourth quarter, but I guess I heard he came back afterwards. Like I said, I didn't check that game out because I was watching it mostly on Red Zone, but I don't know if he came back in or not. But yeah, I think the Rams have more injury concerns on the wide receiver front that could stop him from getting a win in Seattle here. I think Seattle does have the advantage in this one, and more importantly, they need to get a comeback game after nearly losing that game to the Colts of all teams with old 43-year-old Philip Rivers, 44-year-old Philip Rivers. So yeah, I think for Seattle, I think they will win this one here. This game could, like I said, end up deciding who wins the NFC's number 1 seed. I think Seattle wins this one here. I think the home field advantage will do them good in this one. Give me the Seahawks to go to 12-4 and the Rams to drop to 11-4. And then we have a couple of Saturday games, and we have our first one here between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders, which I believe that's going to be in Washington, if I'm not mistaken. That is correct. I'm looking at it right now. The Commanders got a big win last week over the New York Giants, and they desperately needed it, man. And now, despite all this, Jayden Daniels is out for the rest of the season, which you kind of have to blame mostly Dan Quinn for that because of what happened in the game against Seattle. I mean, what the hell were you thinking, Dan Quinn? But hey, they got their win overall there, and at this point, the Washington Commanders are just waiting for the season to be over with here, and they're going to be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who, hey, congratulations, you shut out the Raiders. Woo! It doesn't really mean a whole lot, but hey, get as many wins as you can before the playoffs, because you're really starting to cast a lot of doubt about your status in the playoffs in general, and how well you guys can do. Because they mopped the floor with the Raiders, but it was the Raiders. It's not that big of a it really is not that big of a deal overall for them in this one here. I mean, they just needed to get a win to like stay competitive for the playoffs in general here. Can you imagine if the Eagles really lost the division at this point to Dallas with the way that they lost those last 3 games? So they desperately needed this, and their status overall is looking pretty good to win the division once again. 2 times you got to face the Washington Commanders, this time in Washington, and then at the end of the year you go to you host them at the home, and then you go to Buffalo in the between. Then that's really their toughest game coming up, is Buffalo next week, and that's going to be the one where they really have to put a lot of their effort into it. But this one is one I feel like they have to win this one here. Now, even though Washington, even when they're not as good, have been able to get the most of Philadelphia over the last couple of years with some shocking wins. They beat them a couple times when they were in the Super Bowl hunt a couple of years ago. I think 2022, they had that one game on Monday night where Washington was on the field for like 10 minutes and kept Philadelphia off the field. And they did that again in 2023. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility that this could end up in a game where the Commanders could get the best of them, but I just think Philadelphia is in desperate need of stacking some wins, getting some confidence going into the playoffs here. So I think Philadelphia should win this one. I wouldn't be shocked if Washington pulls off an upset here, because these divisional games do get crazy sometimes. So I think Philadelphia does win this one, goes to 10-5, and the Commanders drop to 4-11. And then we'll see what happens 2 weeks after that. And then following that, this is going to be the biggest one of the 3 games that we've looked at so far easily. We've got the rematch between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. We talked about the Bears as they beat the Cleveland Browns pretty convincingly last week. Packers, close game against Denver for most of it, and then the fourth quarter, Denver does what they do best and just keep teams away from them. And then, this game that could have easily been a Super Bowl 60 preview, all of a sudden took a nasty turn when Micah Parsons tore his ACL and now is officially out for the season. So that's your biggest piece on defense gone. And that was the thing that the Packers needed to get to the next level here. But Packers overall are not in the same position that the Chiefs are. I mean, for one thing, they're still in the playoff hunt, but more importantly, they're still a team that could easily put some points up against teams in general. I mean, they were putting points up against Denver, and their defense overall was doing a good job for most of the season even without Parsons in there. But of course, the Packers beat the Bears in a close one in Lambeau last week, 2 weeks ago, I should say. So yeah, the Bears are going to be looking for the revenge in this one here. They want to try to clinch a playoff spot, get themselves one step closer to making a run for the division. I mean, the Bears are playing with hot money right now, and I think that having the home field advantage will work out in their favor in this one here. I'm going to take the Bears to win this one. I think the Bears will take advantage of the fact that Micah's not there, and they'll do what they need to do to win this game here. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears to go to 11-4, and the Packers to drop to 9-5-1. Following that, you've got the Cleveland Browns hosting the Buffalo Bills. We talked about the Bills and what they did against New England, and we talked about the Browns, how they got mollywopped by the Chicago Bears overall. The most exciting thing that happened with the Browns so far is that Myles Garrett is now 1.5 sacks away from tying T.J. Watt for the most sacks in a single season, which he'll probably do at this point, considering that T.J. Watt is off on the side right now, not playing right now. So yeah, this is his golden opportunity to do it here, but they're going to face a really tough Buffalo Bills team. So even if Myles Garrett does get that record, that's probably their Super Bowl this season, because they're not going to do much at all this for the rest of the season, because they're sitting right now at 3-11, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think Buffalo is in too much of a let's get this done mode. Let's finally get past this hump here. Let's get to the playoffs, and I think that's what's exactly going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen this weekend. I think the Buffalo Bills will win this one convincingly. Even though Shedeur Sanders hasn't looked too bad, I just think Cleveland's not really giving him opportunities to really succeed because of the way that he was treated that they treated these teams during the offseason. I feel like they're doing this to kind of get revenge on him and not give him a full chance to do anything, and I just don't think it's going to really matter to them at this point overall. So I think Buffalo will win this one. I think Buffalo will get to 11-4, and the Cleveland Browns drop to 3-12. Following that, we have the Dallas Cowboys trying to keep their very thin playoff hopes alive against the Los Angeles Chargers. We talked about the Chargers and what they did to the Chiefs. The Cowboys, though, on Sunday night, had a chance to keep their playoff hopes alive against the Minnesota Vikings team that had been eliminated earlier in the day. And yet they couldn't do it. J.J. McCarthy and company came ready to play regardless of what happened. And yeah, put a real kibosh on the Dallas Cowboys season overall. Let's put it this way. If Brandon Aubrey is fucking up, then you know it's not going to happen this year for the Cowboys. They had a good run in November. I mean, they had some pretty good games overall. But unfortunately, the Cinderella is midnight struck for Cinderella, and now that lovely carriage that the Cowboys have had has now turned into a pumpkin, and the season's pretty much over and done with for them. I think the Chargers will continue on this path that they're on right now. Keep close with the Denver Broncos, and I think they win. I think the Chargers will win this one overall. I think Chargers win go to 11-4. Cowboys drop to 6-8-1. Following that, we have a very intriguing matchup now because all things considered, what's happening right now with the Chiefs. We have the Chiefs going to Tennessee to take on the Titans. We mentioned the Chiefs officially eliminated from the playoffs this year for the first time in a long, long time. I mean, let's put it this way. The last time the Chiefs weren't in the playoffs in 2014, this website was only 1 year old. I started the Reviewing Network in July of 2013. It was literally a year and a half old when the last time the Kansas City Chiefs missed the playoffs. I mean, that is pretty significant overall. I mean, there's so many things that we're seeing so many people comparing what life was like 11 years ago when the Chiefs weren't in the playoffs, and yeah, it's pretty much, like I did it too, because I'm doing it because, like I said, this site was just getting started when the Chiefs missed the playoffs last, so that's how you know that it's been that long since they made it in there. But they're going to start Gardner Minshew. We may be looking at the last few games with Travis Kelce as a Kansas City Chief and as a football player overall, as there are rumors that he may be retiring. We could see Andy Reid coaching his last couple of games overall. They're going to be taking on a Tennessee Titans team, which has at times looked promising overall, but just cannot get those wins when they matter the most. And This is probably the greatest Christmas gift they could have gotten because they have a legitimate chance to go in there and shock the Chiefs in general. I mean, the Chiefs literally have nothing else to play for right now. And the Tennessee Titans want to get some momentum going into this offseason for whoever comes in and takes over the team in terms of coaching, getting a team together for Cam Ward to work with here. I actually think the Tennessee Titans shock the world and upset the Kansas City Chiefs in this one here. I think they have a chance to do it. They have shown brief flashes of promise over the last couple of weeks and months, but they just can't get those wins off the ground here. I think they actually get a chance to do that this time around. I'll take the Tennessee Titans to go to 3-12 and the Chiefs to drop to 6-9. I'm feeling comfortable about what they could do overall when this is all said and done. I think Tennessee will use that as momentum going into next season, thinking that, hey, if we could be a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they're not as good as they will be with Mahomes there, I think we have a legitimate shot to potentially shock the world. That's my thinking behind it. Following that, we have got the New York Jets hosting the New Orleans Saints. Is going to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Excuse me, not the other way around. But yeah, the New Orleans Saints. They won against Carolina, which let me be perfectly honest with you, that was basically an Academy Award. Is a cheap penalty that eventually got them the win there. Like, is that really how you want this team to be better, just to win games? Just fake a penalty so you get a field goal out of it? Like, I'm sorry, that bugged the hell out of me when that happened. Tyler Shough literally dived, knowing that Carolina was going to do that. It's it was just. Like, I'm sorry, that bugs me a whole lot. And they won the game because of that. Carolina had a chance to win, to get close to the division, and then that happens, and now it's just like, yeah, Carolina's never going to have a chance to really do anything because of shit like that. Like, it's just, that really bugged the hell out of me that Tyler Shough did that. Like, I don't care if he got his win, man, but it's just like, come on, man, that's a cheap way to get a win. Honestly, that's a really cheap way to get a win, but. Yeah, they're going to be taking on the Jets, who got mollywopped by the Jacksonville Jaguars pretty badly. 48 points on the defense, to the point where the Jets actually fired Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator. And, what did you think was going to happen? I mean, really, the Jets' defense has been so terrible all season long. They have not had one interception in 13 games. And that's just something where it's just like, how do you not have one interception if you're a defensive front like that at all in the season? It's just like, my God, man. And the Jets have just been terrible this season, and I would not put it past the Saints if they do win this game. I think the Saints are just the better team in this one here. Hey, New Orleans, 5-10. I think that's a pretty good way to go with this one. I'm going to go with the Saints, 5-10. Jets dropping to 3-12. And then following that, you have the other New York football team playing this weekend, and that is the New York Football Giants taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, like I said, despite not being in the playoff hunt anymore, put it to the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night and put up a pretty good game against them. Giants put a game against the Commanders, even though it ended up in a losing effort overall. Giants are just waiting for the season to be over at this point, and yeah, they're like the Jets right now. They're just not in a good position right now. And Minnesota's playing with house money right now. They want to see what J.J. McCarthy is capable of in the spot there. And if he can follow up his success with the Cowboys game last week, I think there's a really good chance here that they can come in and win this game overall, and possibly in the season maybe over 500, even though they may not make the playoffs here. But I'm going to take the Vikings to win this one. I take the Vikings win this one. They go to 7-8. Giants drop to 2-13, holding their position as the number one team in the NFL in the 2026 NFL draft at the number one spot. So that's my thinking behind that one. Following that, we have got the Miami Dolphins hosting the Cincinnati Bengals, a game that was supposed to be the Sunday Night Football game that week, but considering that both teams are now officially out of the playoff hunt, it makes sense why it got flexed up to 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. And Miami, you once again proved that you can't win in cold weather. It's now your 14th consecutive game under 40 degrees where you have not won a single game. Even though they did try in the first half against the Steelers, it wasn't enough in the end for them. But at least you put more effort into it than the Cincinnati Bengals did. My God, talk about the biggest disappointment of the entire weekend. I mean, we knew the Raiders were bad. there was no doubt they were going to lose that game against the Philadelphia Eagles, no matter who they were going to put in there. Now, they could have put Tom Brady in there. They were going to lose that one. But the Bengals still had a little bit of a threat of getting into the playoffs. And all they had to do was beat Baltimore and win out. And they didn't even show up, man. I mean, they didn't do anything at all. They got shut out 24-0. It was just a mess all across the board. Every time they tried to get into it, there was just something that was getting in the way. Penalties, that interception by Kyle Van Noy where he flipped it to the other guy for the pick six touchdown. I mean, the Bengals are just a mess. It's been a mess of a season overall. It's amazing Zach Taylor still has his job after all of that. Like, I would have thought after getting shut out 24-0, it's just like, okay, this guy's got to be out of here soon, right? Still around apparently, and who knows, maybe they'll keep him around because the Bengals are really stubborn when you really think about it. But in terms of who wins this game here, it's really a toss-up overall. It's basically going to be which team is going to show up, even though they have literally nothing to play for. They can't get higher draft positioning than they're currently at right now. I mean, the Dolphins have 6 wins. Bengals have 4 wins right now. I think because of the home field advantage, I think the Miami Dolphins definitely have the better advantage in this matchup here than the Bengals do. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Dolphins to win this one, to go to 7-8, and the Bengals to drop to 4-11. Following that, this could be a really, really good preview of an AFC playoff game or the AFC Championship game. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Denver Broncos. We touched on the Denver Broncos and what they did against Green Bay. Jacksonville just mopped the floor with the Jets, 48-20. Trevor Lawrence had 5 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown for a total of 6 touchdowns. The Jaguars are playing with house money right now. They've only lost 1 game in the last 4 since coming back from the bye week here. They are playing red hot right now, and now here comes their toughest battle yet against a team that is the number 1 seed in the AFC, who has been dominant at home all season long, the Denver Broncos have, and are now sitting with a playoff spot ready and a playoff and potentially the AFC number 1 seed in the future if they can keep this up here. I think this is going to be a really tough battle between 2 really good teams that will meet each other again in January, no question about it. But considering that this is taking place in Denver, and Denver has just had is one of the best home field advantages this season, I really think it's going to be tough for Jacksonville to go in there and really make some noise in this one here. I mean, it's good. It should be a good matchup overall, and like I said, it should be a preview of what's to come in January. But for this particular matchup here, I'm going to go with the home team on this one. I'm going with the Broncos to continue the momentum here, keep their hunt for the AFC's 1 seed going. I think the Broncos win this one, go to 13-2, and the Jaguars go to 10-5. Jaguars still in good position right now to win the division right now at this point. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup overall. Probably the most exciting matchup of the entire weekend, honestly. And then following that, we have got the Arizona Cardinals going to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. No, the other way around. The Falcons hosting the Cardinals hosting the Falcons. The Falcons, like I said, shocked the world with a big Thursday night win against Tampa Bay. Again, knowing that they're out of the playoffs already, but they don't care, man. Kirk Cousins doing what he needs to do to get that team a win against a team that's still in the playoff hunt in Tampa Bay. And it showed in that game right there. I mean, they were really good. Arizona, on the other hand, it's another one of those teams where they're just like, just let the season be over, man. We can't take any more of this. The injuries just keep piling up. This team's going to be heavily retooled when the season is over. And Kyler Murray probably not going to be the quarterback for this team anymore. So, a lot of question marks overall, but everyone's just waiting for the season to be over for the Cardinals. And the Falcons should help them get one step closer to that. I think they win this one with ease. Falcons go to 6-9. Cardinals drop to 3-12. And then we have a pretty intriguing matchup here. We've got AIDS, I guess, against the Detroit Lions. And yeah, I'm questioning, do I want to consider this the Steelers' AIDS right now because they've won the last 2 games that have looked the best they've had in the last couple of weeks overall. But Pittsburgh, you didn't fall to the things I was worried about here. I was really worried that Miami was somehow, some way going to find a way to come in here and prove that and the Steelers were going to lose a game that they should win. But lo and behold, the Steelers not only won a game they should have won, but They look like the best they've had all season long. For at least 3.5 quarters, they shut down the Miami Dolphins big time. I mean, it was 28-3 in the fourth quarter, and while the Dolphins did come back a little bit here, they mostly lost that game because one, Miami can't play in cold weather no matter how hard they try. I mean, they literally were outside practicing in the snow on Saturday during the snowstorm that hit. But on top of that, the fourth quarter, when they were trying to come back, they just kept taking a lot of time off the clock here, never really getting an opportunity to really do a whole lot, and that's why they lost that game in that one overall. And considering that the Steelers did this without T.J. Watt too, that's a pretty big win for them in general for what they were trying to do. But they're going to be taking on the Detroit Lions team, who has also been underachieving for much of this year in general here. I mean, they got mollywopped by the Rams. They keep losing players as the season goes along, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But there's still fighters in there, and Dan Campbell is going to do whatever it takes to prove to everybody that he doesn't need Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, even though he's not doing a very good job of that right now. But the good news is that for the Lions is that they're going to have the home field advantage in this one here. The Steelers, it's definitely been a mixed bag overall for them this year. And with the Steelers, we really don't know what the status is on T.J. Watt overall with that punctured lung that he had going on over the weekend. The word is right now essentially that there's a chance that he could play, but there's no update as of right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this defense can do if it essentially means that this is going to be. It's really going to be something. I think Ben Roethlisberger kind of said it best. The Lions game will show whether or not the Steelers can make a Super Bowl run, and I think he's absolutely right on that. I think he's definitely the guy that can. I think he's absolutely 100% on that one there because this is going to be their toughest game for the rest of the season. I mean, Cleveland's going to be tough in Cleveland because they've had a hard time doing that, winning in that one, winning in that Cleveland over the last couple of years. They've only won once in the last 5 years. It's a game they can win. And then you've got the Ravens coming to town on Week 18, which at this point could end up being the final game of the season, which is really troubling for me because that means that's going to be the Sunday Night NFL rewatch game. Which, if you've seen the last 2 times I covered the Steelers, it has not been pretty because they were both bad losses, and this is going to be a really, really tough game I think for the Steelers to win. I think not having T.J. Watt there is going to be huge for them. If they can find a way to win this game, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll be the winner of the AFC North. They wouldn't even have to beat Cleveland overall, but this is going to be a tough stretch overall here. I think the Lions have the upper hand in this one because it's in Detroit, because they are desperately trying to stay with the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers to win the division. I think that Lions game at Week 18 could be a major deciding factor on who wins the division in the NFC North. But I am going to go with the Lions to win this one here. I think it's going to be a tough matchup for both teams overall. But I think the Lions will have the upper hand with the home field advantage. Give me the Detroit Lions to go to 9-6, and the Pittsburgh Steelers to drop to 8-7. So following that, we have got the Las Vegas Raiders is going to Houston to take on the Texans. I keep giving you the wrong locations of these games, but the Texans have been on a hot streak the last couple of weeks. They mopped the floor with Arizona very quickly in that game. I mean, that was a brutal, brutal beginning for the Cardinals defense overall, trying to stop the Texans overall. They're getting better on the offense. The defense has been strong all season long, but the Texans really have amazed a lot of people with the fact that they were able to come back as well as they had over the last couple of weeks. But then you got the Raiders, who are just like with the Cardinals, like with the Jets, like with the Giants, and the Commanders, just waiting for the season to be over with so they can start retooling for next season. And the Texans, I don't think, are going to make it any better for them overall. So, needless to say, this is probably one of my locks of the week for the Texans to go in there and beat the Raiders, keep their hope for the AFC South title. I'm going to take the Texans to go to 10-5 and the Raiders to drop to 2-13. Before we get to Sunday Night Football, I just realized I completely forgot a game in the early window. The Carolina Panthers hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How did I miss that one? I'm literally looking at the list of the games this week, but Tampa Bay, as I mentioned before, got mollywopped by Atlanta. Carolina got screwed over in the final seconds by New Orleans. These are the two teams that are going to be fighting for the NFC South title. Who is going to win that matchup overall? Because these two teams will meet each other over the next 3 weeks, and it's going to be a bloodbath between these two football teams. The Buccaneers have really struggled a lot over this season, especially with all the injuries they've had to deal with. Even with Mike Evans coming back this past week, it wasn't enough to get the Falcons that win that they desperately needed. They're sitting right now at 7-7. They've got two attempts with the Carolina Panthers and then the Miami Dolphins in the middle of that. So yeah, this is a very tough stretch for both of these teams, but the road at least looks better for Tampa Bay than it does Carolina, because in the middle, Carolina's got to see Seattle at some point. And going to Seattle is going to be extremely tough, because they have to go to Seattle in order to get that done here. So it's an uphill battle for Carolina more than it is for Tampa Bay. But because this game is going to be played in Carolina, I'm actually going to give the Panthers the benefit of the doubt on this one here. I think they come back after that ugly loss to Atlanta and find a way to win this against New Orleans. I think they find a way to come off that loss to New Orleans, get back on track, use the home field advantage to their favor. I think they beat Tampa Bay in this one. I think the Panthers move back up to above 500 to 8-7, and the Bucs drop to 7-8. But these two teams will meet again here in Raymond James Stadium to end the season, and that's where the real battle will be for who wins the NFC South. So now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the Sunday Night Football game of the week, which was flexed into primetime. The New England Patriots taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens shut out the Cincinnati Bengals. The Patriots had a chance to shut out the AFC East title, but Buffalo said, not in my house, which wasn't even their house. But yeah, Buffalo got the win. The division is still on the line for both of these teams. And this is a game that has a lot of implications for a number of different reasons. The Ravens have the toughest schedule ahead for who's going to decide the AFC North, because after this, you got the Green Bay Packers, and then you got to go to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Patriots, their road is pretty simple. If they beat the Ravens, then they go to the Jets, and then they beat the Dolphins, and then they still have a chance to win the division overall. It's gonna be a rough ride to the finish for the AFC East and the AFC North, and it will literally come down to Week 18. It seems like, but in terms of this matchup here, I think Baltimore has a lot of things that they need to get people to come back on here, because they've had some pretty big primetime games and have not looked pretty good when it mattered the most here. And considering you're facing a Patriots team coming off of that big shutout, that big collapse they had last week against Buffalo, Baltimore needs to show everybody they can still be the contenders that they are destined to be. So this is going to be a very, very interesting game for both of these teams in general, because both of these teams have a lot to prove. But I think it's Baltimore, the home team, that gets the job done in this one here. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think Baltimore will win this one. I think Baltimore will move to 8-7, tied with the Steelers for leading the AFC North, and the Patriots drop to 11-4, which will tie them with the Buffalo Bills. So then, with all that said, we have our Monday night game of the week, and that is the San Francisco 49ers going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. We talked about the Colts, Phillip Rivers, nearly getting the Colts a win in Seattle, which was hard to believe overall. He threw his first touchdown in 5 years, and didn't look too bad. He's still alive, so that's good. They're going to be taking on the 49ers, who pretty much had a cakewalk win against the Tennessee Titans. I still have my doubts about the 49ers in general here. And this is one of those interesting games that could really go one of two ways. Because San Francisco, as I mentioned before, can clinch a playoff berth with a win, and a Detroit loss. The Colts are still very much in it, and there's a reason why you bring in somebody like Phillip Rivers in here. Like this is right now is the equivalent of having Jeff Saturday being your head coach late in the season against the Colts. It's a publicity stunt right now. And man, let's just say this: what a Christmas story! Couple days before Christmas story this would be if old man Santa Claus Phillip Rivers comes into Indianapolis's Lucas Oil Stadium, comes in with the 49ers and finds a way to win this game. Like, I think that's something where people would eat that story up here. ESPN would eat that story up big time. The guys on Get Up and First Take would be talking about how the Colts shock the world and knock down the 49ers and I honestly think that could indeed happen. I feel like that is a possibility that could happen with this game here. This is one of those ones where, kind of like with the Titans game over the Chiefs, like, I'm really just thinking to myself of, wouldn't this be great for one person if they beat this team that everyone thinks they should beat? Like, I feel like that's what's going to happen here with the Colts in general in this one here. I'm actually going to pick the Colts to win this game. I think the Colts will use a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I think the defense will come to play in this one here. I think Phillip Rivers, with a full week of practice this time around, instead of coming in on Wednesday like he did last week, I think there'll be an opportunity for him and this team to get a much better performance out of them than they had last week. Even though last week they almost beat the Seahawks, which that should give them an extra motivation to go into this game and try to beat San Francisco. I think the Colts win this one here. I'll give them the Colts to win 9-6. 49ers drop to 10-5. I think it feels like it's going to be that kind of a story where Phillip Rivers comes out of retirement and puts the Colts in a position to stay in the playoff hunt at this point, because I think they will win this one. I'm going with the Colts to win this one over the 49ers. So there you go. Just to recap my picks overall, I've got the Seahawks over the Rams, the Eagles over the Commanders, the Bears over the Packers, the Bills over the Browns, the Chargers over the Cowboys, the Titans over the Chiefs, Saints over the Jets, the Vikings over the Giants, the Panthers over the Buccaneers, Dolphins over the Bengals, Broncos over the Jaguars, Falcons over the Cardinals, Lions over the Steelers, Texans over the Raiders, Ravens over the Patriots, and the Colts over the 49ers. And after this week, we should pretty much get a good idea of what the playoff picture is going to look like. The NFC will look radically different than it will this time, than it will right now. I mean, the AFC I think is pretty much set in stone right now. You'll probably have one team in the 7th spot get moved out with either Indianapolis or Baltimore will probably be right there with the Steelers in the 4th spot overall. I mean, I think the NFC will be a lot different than the AFC will look next year when we look at the path to the playoffs again next time around. So there you go, everybody. That's another episode of the NFL Network. We'll have one more before Christmas, and then we'll have our regular season finale just before the new year comes in 2026. So, with all of that said, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the show. If you want to see more videos like this, if you like this and want to see more, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification button, and also don't forget to check out our last episode as well as our playlist below as well, so you can see how my season has done so far. It has not been the best, but it hasn't been the worst either. So, with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care. The following has been a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports.